Steve Richards is motor racing royalty. Like, the guy's a legend. He's won 4 Bathurst 1000s. His dad's won 7. Yet, not long ago, Steve and his wife were just minutes away from signing a contract to become a franchisee with one of the biggest fast food chains in the world. Luckily, they decided to stick to their knitting, well, stick to their motor racing, and start a business that has them firing on all 8 cylinders. Thank you very much. Before we get stuck into episode 408 of the Small Business Big Marketing Show, the Marketing Gold is made possible thanks to Design Crowd and American Express. Design Crowd, well, they're the world's #1 custom design marketplace where, with access to 550,000 designers, you'll get the perfect design every time, and you can get $100 off at designcrowd.com/Timbo. And American Express. We are made possible thanks to American Express. If you'd like to find out how your business expenses can reward you, then Google Amex Business. I think you'll like what you'll find.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show, where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid.
And welcome back to the Small Business Big Marketing Show. I am your host, Timbo Reid. You, infinitely more importantly, are a motivated business owner and you're ready to crank out some great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it deserves to be. Big show today. We meet Australian racing car legend, royalty. He's just an all-round good guy, and small business owner Steve Richards. Melbourne SEO Services Dave Jennings reveals a little-known hack that will ensure Google loves your website. And I give away more prizes in the Small Business Big Marketing Monster Prize Draw. I give them to 2 inspiring listeners who share something they've actioned from listening to this show and how it's impacted in their business. And by the way, I announce a new prize that by itself is worth $2,500 that one of you is going to win at some point this year. As per usual, team, there is marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in. Quick update on the Melbourne chapter of my first Deep Dive Mastermind. It's full. Yes, indeedly doodly. 9 motivated small business owners have secured their seat at the table for what I'm calling MG1. That's Melbourne Group 1 for my Deep Dive Mastermind. Given the amount of interest I've had from Sydney siders listening in, SG1, Sydney Group 1, is in the planning stages. It's just you, me, 8 other motivated business owners around a table for half a day every 2 months, bashing through your marketing challenges. And I'll give you as much insight, encouragement and coaching as I possibly can to each of those Deep Dive Mastermind members. Hey, you and I are going to be meeting some amazing business. Oh, by the way, back to Mastermind. If you want to register your interest, just email me, tim@timreid, reid.com.au, and you can find all the details on the website. Hey, you and I will be meeting some amazing business owners and marketers over the coming weeks, including past guests. We're going to revisit Dan Fagella, who recently sold his online training business for just over $1 million in folding stuff, and Mia Klitzis, who joins us to explain how she's created a subscription-based tampon e-commerce store that's doing pretty big numbers. Now, that brings us to today's guest, racing car legend turned small business owner, Steve Richards. Now, I don't use the word legend lightly, I've got to tell you, but this guy is absolutely one. He's won the Bathurst 1000 4 times, possibly Australia's toughest motor race. His dad, Jim Richards, won it a whopping 7 times. All up, Steve has had 57 podium finishes. Basically, if you're an Australian, and not even if you're into motor racing, Steve's face will be familiar to you. Not that you're going to see it during this interview, but if you saw him in the street, you go, I think I know that guy. I first met Steve way back on episode 318, which was a lot of fun. It was when I was invited to a corporate race day by a long-time listener and owner of Laser Plumbing and Electrical, Steve Keel. During that episode, I explored whether race car sponsorship was worthwhile, and a part of that exploration was a hot lap in Steve Richards' racing Porsche. You can watch that video in the show notes over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/408. Now, Steve's business story is fascinating. How he went from being an employee of other people's race teams to now having his own in Steve Richards Motorsport, in which he found himself being a jack of all trades, truck driver, manager, marketer. He was even the racing car driver at points in time. How unusual. Now, one aspect I found particularly interesting was the fact that he and his wife Angela were just minutes away from signing a contract to become a KFC franchisee before realising their true business calling. I started off by sucking up to Steve by telling him what an impressive CV he has.
Oh, look, I guess, when you're a young bloke starting out, you dream of doing big things in the sport that you enjoy, and over time you just sort of get a few runs on the board. No, I guess
a few runs for Bathurst later and however many other trophies. Be a big pool room, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's not too bad. There's always plenty of good stuff to reflect on. But it's funny because you say that, but through my career, some of the best results haven't necessarily been the ones where you've got the trophy. The ones where you've really ground it out and fought hard, and at the end of the day, you've got a sense of achievement from that hard effort and work that you've put through. So, but been pretty lucky.
That's interesting because obviously we're here to talk business and marketing, and I'm really interested to see what we us citizens, as a small business land here, can learn from a race car driver that has achieved so much. So that's interesting. It's not always about the trophy, right? It's sometimes the journey is important. It sounds cliche.
I think, to be honest, it's more about the journey. To be honest, I think the trophy is just the small little bit that you get at the end of it that probably just gratifies what you've done, but the self gratification is the process that's enabled you to get to that point.
I wonder what a small business owner listening thinks of that, where the trophy's the sale, getting the client for life. But hey, mate, the journey's enjoy the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think to collect more trophies, you need to put in that groundwork in the beginning. It's no different, really, is it? We're talking the same sort of thing.
Through that CV, at what point did you become a business owner?
Yeah, look, I spent 16 years, in the lead up to that, I spent my time trying to get to that point, and then spent 16 years in the Australian Supercars Championship. And then post Supercars, and to be honest, I was a little bit fractured and burnt by the last two years of doing that. And my wife and I were sitting down talking about, and there were some options to go car racing and form our own team and do some things with some commercial backers that were willing to do that. But then, there was the option to step out and go and do something else, and we went a long way down the road of a fast food franchise to the point where we'd gone into Crown Metropole in town and literally had all the documents in our hands to sign up and go down that path. So thankfully, I think at this stage we chose the right thing. We stuck at motor racing and knew the core of what we really knew. And probably weren't that attracted to 7-day-a-week food retail.
Really? We can reveal you were going to become a KFC franchisee.
Yeah, that's right.
Tell us about that. So I think it's like 2010, 2011. You have had an incredible racing career. We've gone through the CV. I won't embarrass you again. But what That's an incredible change. You're completely over the racing industry.
Yeah, look, the 2 last years in the Supercars Championship had been disappointing from a results perspective, but
You're a bit sad with yourself, were you?
No, look, just not being able to enable change to help my situation, and that was from many reasons, and you move on from that sort of stuff and you learn from it and become a bigger person from it.
But you must have had a bad taste in your mouth.
I did, absolutely, I did. Yep, there was no doubt about the situation that I was in. I felt, and I was looking to continue in the Supercars Championship as a driver. But really, there was a bit of a time of change in that period too for the industry, in that the GFC had only recently happened, and there was a lot more commercial realities from young drivers that had sponsorship that were bringing to the team in order to support these big operations. I mean, a V8 Supercars team can have 50 to 60 people in it, so there's a few mouths to feed on the
Was
side
there
of
anything in particular that made you think, you know what, I'm going to go and run a KFC?
Look, just the situation that I was in at the time, and not being able to make some changes that would help change my performance, and that was because of the internal structure of the team. I mean, I was essentially a contractor providing my services to that team. I wasn't employed by the team, so. Anyway, we were.
You've gone KFC. You've thought, okay, well, a franchise, as many do, looks very appealing.
Yes.
You've agreed. You and your.
I like chicken.
I love fried chicken. Hey, it ticks a lot of boxes.
Yeah.
I think they use chicken salt at KFC too, so more boxes to be ticked. And what your wife's name is?
Angela.
You and Angela have agreed we're going to get a KFC franchise. The documents are prepared. Mm-hmm. You are hopping in the car. It's hours out of you driving down to Crown Casino in Melbourne.
Yep.
What happened?
Well, we came out of the meeting a bit overwhelmed and a bit.
So you went to the meeting?
Yeah, we were at the meeting. Yeah, we'd done the meeting. We'd received the documentation, and it was basically here you go. Here's the stuff. Have a look through it, and get back to us within the next couple of days. Get your solicitor to have a look through some things and do all that. And we were driving home, and it was dark. It was night time. The meeting was at sort of 8 o'clock at night, and we're driving home, and we both looked at each other and the pile of paperwork we had, and I think one of us just said, "What are we doing? We know nothing about this." I'm sure we're smart enough to be able to learn, but we've got kids that at that point in time were 10 and 11, and we were looking to probably move away from that being that sort of busy and starting up a business at that time, when we were in our late 30s. And going down that path. I mean, I just thought, maybe we should just, should we stick to what we know? We know the game of the motor racing and the industry. We've got some great connections, some great opportunities there. Let's give it another shot.
because I mean, that's like saying to the bride's father, "I think we're going to call this one off." Gutsy. Obviously, there was some stuff to consider. Losing face, probably, I don't know, any legalities, whatever. But you didn't regret it.
No, not at all. And we from that moment on, we put our heads down and we went back to the people that were going to support us. And in the side to that is that as a coming out of the Supercars Racing Championship as a full-time driver meant that for the 3 endurance event at Sandown, Bathurst and the Gold Coast, as a driver you'd be in high demand. So there was the opportunity there to still have some good driving in the Supercars, but then look at what other opportunities within the motorsport game could be exposed. And I'd already done a little bit of research on the Porsche Carrera Cup Championship, and that's a well-supported one. It's probably the fastest single-make championship in the world. It's held in 9 different countries, and we thought that was a good way to step back out of professional driving into professional team ownership.
So this is you and Angela going, okay, there's a business to be had in motorsport. Yep. You identified the Porsche Cup as the place to do it. And is that when Steve Richards Motor Racing is launched. Is that the
look,
business?
essentially, Steve Richards Motorsport as a business was
Mate,
launched.
Steve, sorry to interrupt, but Steve Richards Racing is a horse guy. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, that's
Every
right.
time I bloody Googled you, it's like this horse guy comes up. We need to fix that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you.
Yeah, so that company was formed back in 1999 when I'd actually been over in the UK doing some racing, and we came back and then I got a drive with a team, so we formed that company. But that was really as a personal services / contracting for my services as a driver, not as an operation that actually performed motor racing services. So Steve Richards Motorsport then became a motor racing services business that provided service not only to us but to other potential customers that wanted to have a solution. I mean, not everyone wants to go and buy the big racing transporter and doesn't want to spend their weekdays working on their cars. They want to have someone that can do that for them, and someone that's experienced and has some runs on the board.
So then they just become a driver.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So that's your foray into small business, Steve. Big change, because essentially, I mean, you might have heard me talk as a listener, past listener of this show. I talk about the cubicle escapee. Those people who are in corporate, working for the man, dying to start their own business. Not dissimilar to you. You're sort of, hardly trapped in a racing car, but you're an employee.
Yes.
And you're going, I need to do something else. I need to run my own show. I need to take control.
Yep, that's absolutely spot on. And there's not too many. There are a few teams out there that do a similar sort of thing that we do, but there's not too many out there that have taken it on. A lot of the supercars drivers, when they're finished driving competitively, they move on to other things outside the industry. So I think it's just like anything though, Tim. You're just out there looking for opportunities, and if you're willing to scratch around and work hard, you can find them. And we were very fortunate in a couple of cases of meeting the guys at Laser Plumbing Electrical.
Yes.
That was a significant moment for us, and we're still working together today.
So just tell us about that. Steve Kyle, being a past guest of this show, in fact, introduced us.
Yes.
He found you in the early days. Was he kind of almost one of those, what do they call them, angel investors, or someone who just come along, saw some potential?
We had a group of people that were involved in the first year, and you've got to remember that Steve Richards Motorsport in 2011 was me and Ange, and having a background as an aircraft mechanic back, while I was building a career as a hobby in motor racing, I had the hands-on tools to be able to work on my cars. So Steve Richards Motorsport Porsche Carrera Cup in 2011 was me preparing the car in the workshop, driving the car to the track, and then getting some contractors involved on the race weekends to help the preparation of the car while I was out there driving. So that it gave me some space in my mind to do it. So
that's a micro business.
Yeah, and then that evolved into what we have now, which is associations with fantastic corporate partners in BMW and BP and Laser Plumbing Electrical, and that continues. But the initial meeting with Steve was through some of our connections that actually a guy called Chris Pesamenti who was doing some business coaching. Yeah, and he was doing some business coaching for some of the Laser franchise members, and gave me an introduction to Steve. And then Steve and I had a chat. Steve wasn't a motor racing guy at all, but he could see some synergies in the model that we were trying to create, and how he could adapt it for the business that was Laser Plumbing Electrical.
Wow, we all need a Steve.
Yeah, that's right.
We do. I mean, what form that comes in, I just remember years ago when I was in corporate, desperately trying to get out and not knowing how to do that and start my own business, because I have no business owners in my family tree. I've checked it out. They're all employees. Right. My Steve was more, I ended up getting a contract for 6 months with Smorgon Steel, and it was almost like a slippery slope out of corporate. Once that contract's over, I had to start my own business. But what happened is Smorgon Steel said, listen, your contract's up, but we'll go and start your own business and we'll be your first client.
Fantastic.
And that was my Steve.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
They are blessings to have that kind of that backing or supportive belief.
There's belief, but obviously there's been something seen in the character of the person that you are, or the way that you're going about your business, and maybe some credibility in talking to someone about what they're trying to do. And I think at the end of the day, for me, making sure that you absolutely fulfil your obligation to someone once you've created it, and that to me I think's been a big thing.
Big jump going from being probably a pampered racing car driver for other people's teams, where you had everything done for you. You weren't the mechanic, you weren't the driver, you weren't anyone but. You were the driver. That's all you were.
Turn up with your helmet.
Jump in the car. Sign a few autographs.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
I'm Steve Richards. Get out of my way. I don't think you would have ever done that. But how did you? Just interested in your mindset and Angela's, because I've spoken to other people who've done this, and their partners are kind of critical because you haven't got their support. So how did you manage that in both your minds? As okay, we're now back to. For want of a better term, ground zero, and we've got to work our way back.
Yeah, that's probably a pretty good question, because in motor racing, you all the drivers that compete at that level have
prima donnas.
Well, not prima donnas, but they're very confident in their ability, and personality wise, everyone's a bit different. And for some people, there's absolutely no question that having to take a step back for that, and then become the guy that drives the truck or the car to tow the trailer and the race car, but then's also in the workshop getting his hands dirty, working and preparing on the car. That wouldn't float with some people. There's no question about that. But look, that's a personal choice, and that's one that we've always been hands on in the roles that we've had within some of the teams. My first professional drive was with a team, Gary Rogers Motorsport, and I was employed as a mechanic during the week to drive the cars on the weekend. So I have no problem and no issue at all, either as Angela, in taking a step back and getting our hands dirty, and it's exciting. We're starting to build something new. One part of my career had finished, and in a lot of cases, some drivers go on to become team owners in the Supercars Championship. Now, I'm not saying for 1 minute that that's something that I want to do, but I think building something credible on the back of what you've done in your professional career as a driver, it was something pretty exciting to do.
You'd come out of adrenaline kind of industry anyway, but when I hear of these people who've left corporate and started their own business, they often talk about the notion of feeling alive. I'm alive. Did you feel that, or you already probably felt alive because you're bloody racing around racetracks at 300 kilometres an hour?
It's hard to think back then, because things were tough. We were. It was hard getting back to working on the cars and doing all that. I hadn't done it for about 15 years. So, but I think it's just
the radiator or the carby.
Yeah, front or rear wheel.
Oh, don't.
Yeah, no, but I think it was exciting at the same time. It was exciting to say, okay, we've done this for many years and it's been fantastic. But now let's see what we can create. As stupid as it sounds, not as a legacy for us for the future, but to still be involved. Interested in seeing the development of younger drivers and that sort of thing. I mean, I know I'm not going to drive forever, but I'm hoping that when I do stop, I've got something that's bubbling along in the background that we can introduce our partners to, and they can take on and help some other young bloke realise his dreams.
Do you feel like you've got that now? 7 years on, 8 years on?
Yeah, look, it's evolved enormously. We started very simple. We sort of grew to a 2-car customer operation. Then at one point we were running in 2 different categories, as well as doing the V8 supercar co-driving role with at first Mark Winterbottom and then Craig Lowndes, and then now we've changed categories into probably what's seen at the moment as the second tier of motor racing and a global formula with the GT3 category, and that probably doesn't mean much to most people, but that we have an association, a commercial arrangement with BMW Australia, with BP, with Laser, and all these great brands, and I think that's what we always hope to do. We hope to bring, I guess, the credibility of what we've done in motor racing and get people involved through a very different sponsorship model, and that's worked really well.
I want to talk about that. Before we do, by the way, we're talking to Steve Richards, who is a motor racing legend, 4-time Bathurst winner and plenty of other trophies in the pool room. Your dad, Jim, won Bathurst 7 times.
Yeah.
I'm not a motor racing guy, so
Sure.
I don't know what kind of bloke Jim was. But what did he impart to you that you're now using in your business? Before Steve explains the impact his dad had on him starting a business, Allow me to open up a world of design possibilities for that beautiful business of yours. Cheap, quick, great. I used to work with a designer who'd force me to choose two of those three options whenever I wanted something designed. As a small business owner with limited funds, it drove me nuts that I could never have all three. That's why I love Design Crowd. You see, Design Crowd is a website that helps startups, small businesses and marketers outsource custom design, from logos and business cards to websites and landing pages. In fact, Design Crowd gives you access to over 550,000 designers from Sydney to San Francisco, ready to help you with awesome creative ideas. Here's how it works. You post a brief describing your design need. Within hours, you'll receive your first design, and over the next 3 to 10 days, a typical project will receive 60 to 100 different designs from designers around the world. You then pick your favourite, make any changes, and pay the designer. You know, whether you're an entrepreneur looking to set up your brand or an established business that needs marketing collateral designed, Design Crowd is your answer. For a special $100 VIP listener offer, go to designcrowd.com/Timbo or enter the discount code Timbo when posting a project. See? Now you can have cheap, quick and great design thanks to Design Crowd. Hey, hang around after this interview as I'm going to let you know how you could win a $2,500 hot lap with racing car legend Steve Richards. But first, here he is explaining the impact his 7 times Bathurst winning dad Jim Richards has had on him.
No, I think probably the biggest attribute was just the way that he went about his racing. He loved it, and he's got a factory in Ringwood, and he's still today at 70 years old is still racing. And I think now he'll tell you that he didn't know any better, but over the time, you know, he had different businesses, a couple of Bob Jane Team Art stores and things that he did. But
franchises, but it's in your blood.
Yeah,
you'll have a KFC one day.
Maybe a laser plumbing electrical.
Yeah, well, there you go. Could do worse than that.
Yeah, but look, I just think his attitude and, you know, I remember him going through some tough times, a lot like I did in his professional career, and he came out the backside of those okay. So I think just from standing at the back, looking into how he and Mum went through that period was helpful. And look, you know, earlier on, there's always the assistance from him and advice of how to get better, but never really business advice, so to speak.
Your celebrity, Steve, which I know will get you blushing, but you know, has that helped you build your business?
There's no question that walking in and going to the table with some results and some standing within the game definitely gives you a foot in the door. But then you've got to.
Have you actively used it?
No, I haven't. But it's. I guess it comes as part of the landscape when you're going to meet someone. It's like, Steve Richards. What have you done? What are you involved with? And, you know, putting together over the years, you know, personal sponsorship things back when I was a driver, and doing proposals and presentations and talking at corporate events for our various sponsors and things. I mean, that's not unfamiliar to me. I felt quite comfortable walking in to talk to a CEO or a marketing director or a CFO.
Well, they'd love it. I worked for for 2 years at a charity called Reach. Jim Steins, the AFL footballer, and Jim had an idea he wanted to bring to life, and that's why I came along and helped him with it. But Jim would unashamedly use his celebrity to open the boardroom door, and then stand aside. But not to the point, because the CEO they wanted to meet him, right? So he did actively use it, and you know, some would say, that's wrong. But I mean, it's an asset.
So. Yeah, I think it's an asset, and I think, you know, when you take on this, for me, a monstrous task of setting something up for yourself, you've done the hard yards in the past, and why shouldn't you use the assets that you've created
absolutely
to be able to move your life forward and move your business forward?
I think it's a great exercise for any business owner to do, is go, what are the assets I have? And I mean, there's all these hard physical assets, but there's also some intangible assets like relationships, partnerships, networks that, you know, are invaluable.
Absolutely.
Maybe we should call on them more.
Yep.
So now you've got this business, Steve Richards Motorsport, that is humming along. You're driving, you're setting up other car teams to have their drivers come and drive on the day. That's all going along beautifully. But there's another part to your business, isn't there, which is the sponsorship part,
Yes.
which you couldn't live without, but you do it differently.
Well, I guess, as we were just discussing, tried to look at all the assets that we have as a group and a business, and naturally driving a race car quickly is pretty special, and it's an experience that we're lucky enough that we can share with other people by putting a passenger seat in. I know you came for a ride with us, Tim, a few years ago, and that was a bit of fun. And then
fun.
And then we try, we don't try, we capture that experience for the person. Now that's one thing, but then it's also about using the car and using your profile as a tool for these businesses to utilise for their assets. So being able to, I guess, offshoot and create almost we created with Laser like a share program, and Laser Plumbing Electrical at that point in time, and they still don't have a huge marketing budget. They're a plumbing and electrical services industry provider through their group, and we had to get down and dirty with the members and actively get those guys involved. So we created some share opportunities for them. So one share was a reasonably basic thing. It revolved around a couple of rides for that member to use at these ride days, and we did 5 of them a year, 2 in Victoria, 1 in South Australia, 1 in New South Wales, 1 in Queensland. So we then got the national network, essentially, of those businesses to be able to be actively involved, and we raced in all those states. So the opportunity then was to enable to get those guys, not those guys, more importantly, get their customers to the events that we were doing, including the ride days. And what we wanted to provide them is the opportunity where they could. The Laser Plumbing Electrical Network are very close, and they share lots of business around Australia with different members. And now some of those memberships and franchisees have got national contracts for big providers, and they utilise the network to be able to expose the web of their business for those services. So for me, it was also about getting those guys together for the day, getting their customers together, and actually learning. I mean, I know how hard it is to pick up the phone and talk to one of my commercial partners when they're really busy. You're lucky to get a 2 or 3 minute conversation with them. But I know for a fact that when I'd actually get in to meet these people and meet the guys on the ground and meet the sales guys, all of a sudden making phone calls and getting a response became a whole lot easier. Mm-hmm. So the whole objective was to encourage the members to get their customers to these days. Sure, use the rides, it's exciting if you want to jump in the car, but the real tangible benefit for them is to actually get their customers and clients in the car, but more importantly, come and host them for the day. Mm-hmm. Come and host them for that 2 or 3 hour window where they're going to be at the track, and they're not talking business. They're talking about their kids, and they're talking about the favourite things they like to do on the weekend. And we know from a fact that in the end has been a great way for them to continue to do business. Now picking up the phone and talking to a big customer or a small customer that has been to one of our days
makes it a lot easier.
Has made it a lot easier for them, and it's been really good for us.
I don't think enough businesses do it. That is, get out. Now, I remember going in doing the episode where we had Steve Kyle.
Yeah.
Sorry, Steve. And the guys from Laser went to the day at Sandown, and I think I went in a little bit cynically thinking, oh, here we go, another corporate day, a few free beers and a bit of food. But it wasn't. And in fact, from memory, I think someone did $80,000 worth of business that day, because all of a sudden there's a different energy and vibe about the place. And you might talk business, but you've had a great day. And then it's a different way. Next time you see that client or prospect, you sort of connect with them differently because you've had downtime with them.
Yep, absolutely.
So that's kind of what you're bringing.
Well,
to the
we
party.
have, and as much as it's we've sort of termed it relationship marketing. We think that what we bring to the table with our assets is something that the group can use in that circumstance. to build their relationships with their customers and clients. We, yes, it is sponsorship, and there's a direct payment made for us to go racing, but it's become a lot more than that. That from then also engaging with those members and using our car and our and me as a tool to then
You're not really a tool, but I know what you mean.
to then an asset, But then be able to go and do some things with them at their local footy club and be able to try and bring some return on their business by utilising us to generate interest, which gets them in the door. Support their local charity by doing that. The charity has a win because we sign a few posters, give out some merchandise, and also it reflects well on their business as well by having us involved. And we've had lots of the franchisees and their kids. They refer to our car as their car. It's their car
Beautiful.
that they sponsor, and that's exactly what we want.
That's what you want to hear. Sponsorship's a funny thing. I often hear not often, but hear business owners say, "Oh, it doesn't work," but you've got to work it.
Absolutely.
So no good just handing over a check to you and saying, put a logo on your car and thank you. You've actually got to, as as the person who's doing the sponsorship, you've got to go think, how do I really kind of leverage this?
And you have to, you really have to put a value against the things that you're doing. We have a retail cost for the rides we do in the car. We know through, current modern day media monitoring of TV, we know that we can get direct value by how many times a logo is placed and compare that to a commercial value that's used in advertising. So we build all that sort of stuff up, and the objective is, right from the word go, is to bring more value than we actually receive as an investment from that partner.
That's one way you've broken with convention and hosting these days for Laser. Are there other ways that you are doing things differently in your business?
Yeah, well, I think, some of the things that we've been able to do, particularly with our different partners, is actually group them together to enable them to do business together.
Oh, love it.
And that's been that's been a big part of what we do. We know that Laser have utilised BP for some fuel card opportunities for their members at discounted pricing. We know that some of the Laser members have bought BMWs, and we've connected through a special pricing through our sponsorship. So BMW's winning, Laser are winning, BP are winning. We try and
this is a great idea, Steve. I think anyone listening to this, you've got clients, you've got customers thinking about how can you connect 2, 3, a handful of customers and then just stand back. Well, going to reflect pretty good on your business.
Everyone wants to do business, and by having I guess me as a facilitator to direct people to the right areas, it's not for me to deal with the business that's being done. It's just to put them together and have a connection that they'll go in and negotiate whatever deals they can. But with me in the middle, I'm sure the deals that they're negotiating are better than what they would have been had they just walked up from the coalface. And that's, I guess that's what we're trying to do at all different levels, whether it's the corporate partner themselves, whether it's their customers or clients. We're trying to give them as much value to do business and share the product that we're providing as possible. Do
you actively have days for all your sponsors where you bring the senior people?
We
together? We
haven't, but we've done them. We've done.
Good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. But we do it. The connection we make,
anyway.
we do it anyway. But for sure, in the future when we're bringing in new partners, then that would be a great opportunity to get people together.
You're out there pitching like we all are for business. Is any particular little tip or secret sauce? The Colonel's secret sauce. See what I did there?
The 11 herbs and spices.
That's it.
I think being genuine to me being the genuine. I'm not a salesperson. I just really try and walk in and show who I am. Marketing is about in some cases about hard selling. I've never really done that. All I've tried.
Bad marketing is.
Yeah, I've always tried to go in there with genuine. Not asking for $1, but offering investment. For me, it's about showcasing. Here's what I can do for you. and here's how and here are the things, going in with a plan, going into those meetings with a plan, not coming in and just going, hey, we've got this really cool race car and we get lots of television and, I'm Stephen Richards and I've won this and done that and been that.
Not yours.
Hey, well, will you jump on board? It's not about that. I'd like to go in and say, okay, we've got a strategy here and this is what we do. Here's a proof of what we do because here's some video. We yearly update our videos to be able to show actually how it functions because, as you know, Tim, in business, it's hard to conceptualise to someone what you do and how you do it, but being able to provide all of this content, YouTube videos, all of that sort of stuff, that enables to go in and say, hey, we've done it. We're not talking about doing this. We have done it and here it is, and this is the way we go about doing it.
You make a great point there. I, having grown up in an advertising agency where I'm the whole time presenting concepts to clients for TV ads or radio ads, billboards, whatever it is, I too had the penny dropped for me once, which was it's very hard to conceive it's very hard to conceptualise an idea, particularly for a client who hasn't necessarily been brought up in the world of ideas, right?
Yep.
And so I found greater success when I could make tangible. A TV ad became a storyboard.
Yes.
Or, we might even cut a little short video and say we're talking about this kind of thing and this kind of vibe and all that type of stuff. And I think, the harder we work to bring to make tangible ideas, the better.
And I think that's you can. I always learnt too from in my driving days that sure you could be the guy that turned up every weekend, did your racing, then went home, went to the team and did a debrief and then went water skiing or off on your mountain bike or went and trained, or you could be the guy that went home and thought, actually, how can I utilise this space better? How can I do some things that are going to bring value to me as a person and for my personal sponsorship stuff? And that's what I started to do. I started to create these things and do these things because it's a competitive game and you've got to have a point of difference. How many guys when you're at the advertising agency walked in and said, hey, we can do this if you can give us this? Mm-hmm. There would have been hundreds. Mm-hmm. And it's no different to sponsorship in sport, motorsport, whatever it is. Big companies receive hundreds of different opportunities, and it's about standing out a bit, but actually being able to have the backing to say, well, we've done this and we can create this value, and here's the market value of these particular things that we're offering.
And that's part of your point of difference is to actually have done that legwork, if you like, up front.
Yes.
I mean, I know business owners are going, point of difference. Oh, everyone's the same. If I'm a vet, there's lots of vets and they're all the same, and we offer better service. I don't know about that, but the idea of actually working hard and pulling all that together up front. Using those assets on an ongoing basis. As I ask this next question, Steve, I have a Formula One pit crew in mind because I've always wondered what we can learn from them. But I'm sure the world you live in is not so far removed. What can we learn from an industry like yours, where you are when racing, you're avoiding death, right? That sounds dramatic.
We don't quite look at it like that.
I know you don't. I have no doubt, because I'm sure all the hard work is done up front.
Yep.
What have you applied in your business life in that regard to, making sure that all the boxes are ticked? Because you must work down to very micro detail.
Yeah, look, I've said this in the past that our business is different only in that our bottom line is a stopwatch and not a dollar value. So everything that we do revolves around how quickly we can get to the start-finish line as fast as possible to get the checkered flag, whatever the case may be. So operationally, everything that that I've grown up with is about how do you minimise time? How do you become more efficient? There's 26 blokes out there, 26 cars out there with 26 drivers, or 36 or whatever the number is, but there's a team of 40 people behind that one guy or two guys. There's thousands of parts in the car that need to be manufactured, designed, engineered, quality controlled, and it's all about a stopwatch. It's all about how you can get from point A to point B the fastest. And any little time losses during the weekend, whether it's your pit stop's a bit slower, whether it's you have a small mechanical problem with the car, there are time loss that's affected by your performance, because all of a sudden you're not thinking about how to make the car go faster, or how you can be better, or how you can manage things more efficiently. You're then on the back burner trying to fix something. So probably for me, that's how I've thought about things my whole life. It's about how can I make something more efficient, more efficient. How can I stop the dead wood? You know, how can I?
So tell me, just explain that process. Paint a picture of. Give us an example, if you like, because again, look at a lot of businesses, and there is a lot of dead wood.
Yep.
There is a lot of inefficient ways of doing things, and the world has changed so much. And the internet alone has opened up so many ways for us to be efficient, whether it be through software or knowledge or whatever it is. Do you literally spend each day looking around going, how do I be more efficient?
Well, it's probably more that I keep my eyes and my ears open. There's ways. Of course, there's the things that I know within the motor racing industry to be able to make things work better, or suppliers that I can rely on to get things done quickly, or things like that. But then in terms of how do I manage my small business, and I've got to say this, that the laser plumbing and electrical guys, they're at the cutting edge in terms of their software and management systems that they provide, for their members. And,
Have a drink. Steve Richards is drinking some vodka out of a coffee mug.
and I found lots of their tools very useful, whether it's cloud-based accounting software, whether it's workplace OH&S stuff that
great. So you're learning from your sponsors.
Oh, absolutely,
love that.
Absolutely, and I love it. I go to some of their member seminars when they're introducing some of this new stuff, and I when I'm sitting there, as well as I'm there just to chat to the members, I'm also sitting there going, how can I apply? How can I apply this? In what circumstance can I use this to be more effective with what I've done? So, as much as I owe a lot to those Steve and the guys at Laser and girls at Laser for helping streamline my business.
Give me some dough for this episode. So I reckon he's had some pretty good exposure.
We've spoken a lot about laser plumbing electrical, haven't we?
Well, and rightly so. Rightly so. I will be putting a link in the show notes back to the episode I did with Laser, because it's worth listening to. Put some context to what we're talking about. I don't want to get morbid, but I am, because again, I think there's a lesson here. I mean, you dance with death, and I know you don't think like that. Have you come very close to looking death in the eye?
I've had not death, no, but I've had probably 3 what I'd call serious accidents in my career.
Okay, so again, from a business point of view, this could be bankruptcy.
Yeah,
okay?
That's right. Yeah,
how do you mentally come back and gain the confidence to do it all again?
Well, you don't tend, in a lot of cases, 2 of those 3 accidents were mechanically related, so they were the cause.
I don't care what they were.
Yeah, but I think
accidents.
as a driver, you have confidence to go, hey, I didn't make the mistake. It wasn't me. It was something else. The one that I didn't, and that was probably being a bit young and silly. That was 21 years ago, and I was racing a guy, and this is sort of pretty relevant, to be honest, to road rage. I was racing a guy, he pushed me off the road. I got angry, and I tried to race him down the grass, and that didn't work, and I turned hard left and hit the arm at about 150 kilometres an hour sideways.
This is on a racetrack, I hope, not the road.
On a racetrack. And the lesson there was, you need to be composed. You don't want to get in that situation where emotion takes over common sense.
So for you, those accidents were, there's one where you were just being a dickhead.
Yep.
And the other 2 were mechanical.
Yep.
Okay, so easy to come back from mechanical, hothead, 21-year-old, you kind of can, but since then? No,
look, and I think the cars are very safe, and we're driving, and it's probably a bit of a misconception that racing cars is you're on the edge of out of control at every lap. I mean, there's a fair communication between driving as fast as you can to driving over the edge, where the car actually then goes slower, and then having an accident because you're driving over the edge. So I think that in most cases, if you've got a good track and a good car and nothing mechanically goes wrong, yeah, sure. Look, sometimes, probably nowadays more so, I think, when I'm driving around, shit, we're going very fast here.
Yeah.
If something goes wrong, and then you've instantly just got to wipe that out of your mind. But I don't. I know that the teams that I drive with, and our team and the people that we employ are of the highest standards, and I never have any question mark when I get in the car.
I imagine the type of business you're in, you're the business owner, so you're pulled from pillar to post. You have a lot of sponsors who I'm guessing want a bit of you on an ongoing basis. What do you do in your downtime? How do you manage your mental well-being?
Well, I have two teenage kids, and they take up a bit of time. And my wife and I said a while ago that, while they're under 18 and we've got a bit of control over them, we'll try and give them their passions, the reward for their hard work at school and that sort of stuff. So time really outside of what we do is that with the kids, but just day to day is just managing a business. Like there is no downtime. If there's downtime, there's something's wrong. There's always something to look at. There's always a way to do something a little bit better, whether it's managing our hot lap customer ride day programs, whether it's looking at different events to do for BP or BMW or appearances for engagements and things like that. The hardest thing I find for companies nowadays is to create new opportunities. So I think in some ways it's as much my role to help the companies that I work with create the opportunities to use for their customers.
What do you mean by that? The hardest thing is to create new opportunities.
Well, I think marketing directors and marketing people are so busy nowadays. Business is becoming more efficient. They don't get the space that they once used to be able to look at things actively. So I feel it's my role to be able to offer different scenarios that they can use what we have to offer as a value add. And whether it's connecting, one of our other corporate partners to them to do something together, or whether it's creating a different format. I mean, as an example, we recently had the Bathurst 12 hour, and we created almost a hub inside the pit area to bring our corporate partners and their customers closer to the action. So they were standing in amongst the team, walking around them within a controlled space environment. And that's something it's very hard to buy that sort of experience. So doing things like that with what the assets that we can control, that's
I love your thought about business owners not getting enough time to just think.
Yep.
Really, that's what it is.
Yep, absolutely.
Think and have the courage to have an idea and go and share it with others and implement it. Yeah, love that. And your point around that thing you did in pits, it's like that's behind the scenes. And behind the scenes works so well.
Yeah, for sure.
Whether it be for social media or for your sponsorship or whatever it is. But people, it's one thing to see you in a car racing around the track. It's another thing. I mean, when I went to that race day, I loved just sort of standing back and going, that's how it works. And, they're filling up the car with petrol, which you would think is very boring. To me, I go, that's pretty exciting. I'm easily pleased.
So am
Steve, mate, I've loved chatting to you. I think there's a lot we can learn from a racing car driver, and clearly now a small business owner. Yeah. Or maybe a medium. Is it a medium business now?
Maybe medium.
Good on you, mate.
It's getting there.
Well done on everything.
Thanks, Timbo.
People can find you at?
On Facebook, Steve Richards, athlete page, or BMW Team SRM.
Okay. And what if there was a potential sponsor listening? I only take 20% of any introductions, but and again, they can just find you through there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or they can hit me up. Yep. Steve Richards, thank you, buddy.
Thanks, Tim.
Well, there you go, team. Steve Richards. What an absolute gentleman. And by the way, I did a Facebook Live of that interview, which you can find over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/408 if you wanted to see us both having a chinwag. Coming up, I'm going to share my top 3 attention grabbers from that fireside chat with Steve. Plus, I've got some more prizes to give away. I'll share how you can win a hot lap with Steve, and you'll discover a simple little hack that will improve the ranking of your website. Here's a money-making tip from American Express member and Four Pillars Gin founder, Stu Gregor.
I, for the life of me, don't understand why a business won't accept Amex, because what you're potentially doing is knocking back customers who want to spend money on your product or your brand or your service or whatever it is. And I frankly don't understand it. If someone wants to give me their Amex and buy 10 bottles of gin, I tell you what, I'll take their Amex, thanks very much. You're potentially also denying yourself a big chunk of corporate business as well. Because a lot of sales guys, a lot of guys, I know me in my own business, I use Amex. And if I ring to make a booking at a restaurant or a bar or something, I say, do you accept Amex? And they say know, I go somewhere else. So they don't even know the business they're missing out on. It beggars belief. And I often find myself having these rather awkward conversations at the with a shopkeeper or a bar owner or a restaurateur saying, why wouldn't you take it? I'll pay you the extra. I'll pay 1.5, the credit card service fee or whatever you want. Take my money.
It's Business 101, really. Make it easy for people to give you money. Speaking of money, the American Express Business Explorer credit card comes with 50,000 bonus points every year, a low interest rate, and 2 points on every dollar you spend. Not to mention a couple of tickets to the very swish Amex Lounge at Sydney International Airport. Search Amex Business to find out more. New American Express card members only. Terms and conditions apply.
Righto, my top 3 attention grabbers from my chat with Steve Richards, thanks to Design Crowd and American Express. Attention grabber number 1, find time for ideas. I love how Steve and his team make time for this. So do you. I want you to read more books, listen to more podcasts, attend more workshops and conferences and events. By the way, well done to the 9 of you who have joined my Deep Dive Mastermind. You are finding time for ideas. Attention grabber number 2, always be on the lookout for opportunities to be more efficient. You know, a few months ago, I did a complete audit of how I put an episode of this show together. And I reckon I saved myself at least 90 minutes per week per episode. Plus, I've captured all the steps that I used to put an episode together, and I've had my VA put them in systemhub.com, which is a great resource for helping you become more efficient by systemising your business. And attention grabber number 3, be a connector. Now, this may or may not be in your nature, may not be part of your personality, but give it a go anyway. I reckon it feels so good to connect 2 people who you know can benefit from knowing each other. Whether that's in your personal life, I'm referring to your business life, but have a go at being a connector. Steve Richards is really good at that. I encourage you to be as well. That's what grabbed my attention. I would love to know. It's been a little bit quiet in the comments section of the show notes team, so let me know what your thoughts were around this episode. Head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/408. Let me know your thoughts.
Ignite your site.
You know, with so many underperforming business websites out there, sad fact, this segment is laser focused on ensuring yours is not one of them. To get your website found and your phone ringing, we're joined by Dave Jennings of MelbourneSEOservices.com. DJ, what's on your mind?
I want to explode an SEO myth here.
Here we go.
People think that more content on their website is better, but that's not the case. Because if your website is filled with rubbish content, even if there's lots of it, that actually sends a really bad quality signal to Google.
From what I understand there, too, if you create, let's say, a blog post around answering a particular question that your customers have, and it's poorly answered, and people go to it and then they hit the back button very quickly because they go, that's just crap content. Google are going to notice that.
Google are watching.
Google are watching.
They're always watching. And these days now, the biggest thing they look at is the user experience. What does the user do when they get to your website?
How long do they hang around? Do they have a good look around? Do they explore multiple pages?
And do you think it's a good signal if someone lands on your website and hits back in the first 5 seconds?
Well, is that bounce rate, right?
That's bounce rate.
That's bounce rate. We want a low bounce rate.
Correct. Yes. So you have to focus on what you need to do is focus on building quality content. You need to build authority content.
Okay. So quality, not quantity.
Yes.
They can learn to do that by getting a free copy of your wonderful book, Authority Content. How?
Heading over to authoritycontent.com/Timbo. We are selling it on Amazon, but as part of this, you get a free copy being a listener of this show.
You're a good fella.
I'll do what I can.
That is just one more way to
Ignite your site.
Come on down. It's Timbo's Monster Prize Draw.
Oh, yes, it's that time of the week. The Small Business Big Marketing Monster Prize Draw. Come on down, indeed. Now, to enter, before I share with you today's winners, to enter, all you need to do is this. Tell me about one idea you've implemented from listening to the Small Business Big Marketing Show and how it's impacted on your business. That's right. That's all. You can write it in an email, or you could do an audio or a video. But either way, email me your response to tim@timreid, reid.com.au. If I choose yours, I'll read it out here and I'll send you a prize, which could be a bottle of gin from 4 Pillars, could be an Uncle Jack's watch, could be a Sophie Spritz picnic bag full of goodies, or some other unreal item kindly donated to us by a past guest. Plus, today's guest, Steve Richards, you ready, has kindly provided one hot lap valued at $2,500, which I'll give away to the letter of the year at some point later this year. How's that for a prize? But all the other prizes are pretty ace. Okay, let's find out what today's winners have implemented and who today's winners are. First one is Sarah McDonald from caninecomprehension.com.au. This is what Sarah has to say. Hey, Timbo, been listening for a couple of years now and implemented lots of marketing gold, all thanks to you and your amazing guests. Probably mostly to the amazing guests, Sarah. Sarah says, my mantra from listening to Small Business Big Marketing is people can copy what you do, but not who you are. Write that down, everyone. So true. One of my favourite quotes. By being my best me, this is Sarah talking again, we have grown from working with 3 schools when I started listening to your podcast in 2015 to over 50 schools just in Melbourne, with a team of 8 amazing tutors and some great admin staff. Well done to you, Sarah. We run a unique business, Canine Comprehension, making learning fun by using animal-assisted therapy in school programs. Love that. Love having an animal around. My favourite learning would be to know your brand's personality. I love to think about this, and it has allowed me to grow and teach my team how they should be approaching their students and how we talk to prospective schools. I'll also love the passion your guests have, Timbo. This common thread motivates me. Listening to your guests talk about how being a small business owner may not be an easy ride, but if you continue to implement, learn from your mistakes, and keep your sense of humour, it will continue to be well worth it. So true. I often say, no matter, like today's episode, it's with a racing car driver. You don't have to be interested in racing cars to learn from Steve Richards. And it's so true of, I think, all the episodes that I put together. We can learn from all sorts of different industries. Back to Sarah. She says, thanks for doing everything you do, Timbo. Every one of your guests are worth learning from. Regards, Sarah McDonald. Sarah, love your work. creativecomprehension.com.au is the name of her business. And Sarah, your prize, let's spin the wheel. Yes, that's what we're going to do this time. We won't spin it every time, but you can hear that wheel spinning in the background. Going past Bunster's hot sauce pack. That's a good prize. Oh, box of Mr. Lee's noodles. That'd be good. A box of good crisp company chips. 4 Pillars gin, Sarah. That's what you've won. $75 worth of their famous rare dry 4 Pillars gin. Thanks to past guest Stu Gregor for that. All right, and one more listener is going to win a prize. This is Talita Jukes. Hey, Talita, from 8seconds.com.au. Her tip that she's learned from this show is provide helpful tips to your audience. She says, share everything. It doesn't mean you are giving the farm away. It enables you to position yourself as an authority in your field and fosters a stronger position in your clients' and potential clients' mind to have them think of you when they require your services, as they have already got value from your helpful and useful information. Voila, she says. Warmest regards, Talita. Talita, that is a great tip. You are speaking my language. Be helpful in your marketing. That's what I've written my book, The Boomerang Effect, all about. when you are helpful in your marketing, it will return multiples. That is the boomerang effect in action. You can buy a copy of that book on my website. Talita, for your efforts, you have won a box of 8 Good Crisp Company canisters of chips. So that's a box of 8 canisters. You with me? You can snack on them with a little Chardonnay or something. And they are given to us, thank you, Matthew Parry, past guest from the Good Crisp Company. That is all for this week on the Small Business Big Marketing's Monster Prize Draw. Send me your entry to tim@timreid.com.au. All right, you and I, we cover some serious marketing ground in this show. We have previously caught up with Joe and Joel, who own hundreds of community notice boards outside supermarkets all around Australia. I didn't even think that was a business. I thought that was a community service. It is a seriously good little business. And Riz Syed, who's opened up 29 brow bars across Perth in the past couple of years. You'll find those episodes plus hundreds more over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, or you can subscribe free on your favourite podcast app, which means that you are never going to miss another episode. Hey, speaking of podcasts, because you're listening to one, head over to the Australian Podcast Awards and vote for this show in the Listener's Choice category. I would love you to do that. AustralianPodcastAwards.com. You'll find the popular, vote section. You'll find this show in there. Love you to vote. I'd also love to hear from you. Contact me over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com. You can hit me up on social media, send me an email, even buy a copy of my book. And be sure to check out Design Crowd, the world's #1 custom design marketplace, where with access to 550,000 designers, that's so many designers, you'll get the perfect design every time, no matter whether it's a business card, logo, brochure, signage, website, whatever it is that you are looking for, you'll find at designcrowd.com/Timbo, where you'll get $100 off your brief. And a big thanks to American Express, whose popular Business Explorer card can assist in your business expenses, rewarding you. And who doesn't want a bit of that? Search Amex Business to find out more. If you love the Small Business Big Marketing Show, then let every business owner that you know in your network know about it. Put a little kind of post out on LinkedIn and send it to the world saying, hey, listen to this show. It's really good. Until next week, I'm Timbo Reid. Thanks for tuning in. May your marketing be the best marketing. Bye for now.